If bin Laden was killed in the process of that capture operation, then so be it. But in general, the tribals were told that they had to plan for a capture operation.
They're told to handcuff him, drag him to the gate, load him into a four-wheel drive, and take him to a cave about 30 miles away.
We divided it into two operations. First, grab Osama bin Laden. Second, take him to a place where we knew that no one would come after him. And then after things calmed down a while, then go in and pick him up.
The Clinton administration's goal is to put Osama bin Laden on trial somewhere.
They were going to take him from Tarnak Farms and then hold him for up to 30 days in Afghanistan while the United States government tried to figure out whether Saudi Arabia would accept him for trial or whether it would be suitable to try him in the United States.
You can't just bring him to this country and hold them. That may be a post-9/11 phenomenon, but it was not a pre-9/11 phenomenon. So our recommendation was turn him over to the Saudis, let the Saudis take care of him.
As the CIA and their Afghan agents put the finishing touches to the plan, the Clinton administration questions the reliability of these allies.
Were they capable of anything other than some kind of shoot 'em up? Were they really going to be able to abduct Osama bin Laden?
There was fear that the tribals would go in with guns blazing, kill women and children. Goodness knows how many people they might kill.
Once they got in the perimeter of Tarnak Farms, particularly if somebody fired a weapon at them, which was pretty well guaranteed, you could be pretty sure that they would not really be looking at their index cards for instructions about what to do next. They would simply respond with force.
The Afghan agents are mercenaries who fight for the highest bidder and are known to be ruthless. Despite the concerns, Schuer, the architect of the plan, is confident of its success.
We said we had 3 chances out of 10. But we also said, quite frankly, we're never going to get a better chance than this in terms of the difficulty of the mission and the quality of the operatives.
But Rydell claims that even the head of the CIA, George Tenet, has doubts over the trustworthiness of the Afghan operatives.
And it wasn't just in the White House. I think that when George Tenet came and briefed Sandy Berger and other senior officials, he also expressed some doubt about whether this could really be pulled off.
Whether the plan was ever finally approved is still hotly debated today.
Anyone who says it wasn't approved by the senior leadership of the agency is lying, because I happened to be in the meetings when it was approved.
With mounting fears over the Afghan agents' reliability, the CIA leaders cancel implementation.
It was frustrating. You know, I never risked my life, but I sent a lot of people into harm's way to collect the information. And I could never understand why they decided that they didn't want to take a measure that would protect the United States.
There wasn't really a convincing idea about what was to be done with him after he was kidnapped. If the plan had simply been to raid Tarnak Farm, shoot him dead and withdraw, it might have been more plausible, but it was a much more elaborate plan than that.
Then, in August 1998, 3 months after the abduction plan is shelved, Al-Qaeda bombers launch synchronized attacks against U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. More than 200 people are killed and 4,000 wounded.
We captured the individuals involved. They confessed almost immediately to having been Sunnis and having worked for Osama bin Laden and having been members of Al-Qaeda.
Now there is no hesitation on President Clinton's part. He authorizes the assassination of bin Laden. It marks a turning point in U.S. plans to kill bin Laden. The government is about to unleash a devastating response. Since 1997, the CIA funded the planning of and training for 2 elaborate plans to capture or kill Osama bin Laden. The first failed because of incompetence. The second was withdrawn at the last minute because of concerns over unintended casualties. But such concerns were about to change when, on the morning of August 7th, 1998, suicide bombers in trucks laden with explosives detonated their vehicles outside U.S. embassies in Dar es Salaam and Nairobi.
The impact on the White House, the impact on the State Department was overnight and just devastating.
Outraged after the bombings, the U.S. wants a quick and decisive response against the mastermind behind the attacks.
No matter what it takes, we must find those responsible for these evil acts and see that justice is done.
The president recognized that al-Qaeda was a threat to the national security of the United States and that needed to be dealt with decisively. And he made an attempt to have the man killed.
President Clinton calls in the military. General Anthony Zinni is asked to draw up plans for a military response.
The president was adamant that we should now look for the best targets we had and go after them.
General Zinni proposes targeting 8 al-Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan, including the Tarnak Farms facility. He also proposes attacking a laboratory in Sudan believed to be involved in the production of chemical weapons.
The best information we had was the possibility of Osama bin Laden being in one of these camps in August.
After weighing the options, the general recommends one of the most advanced and destructive weapons in the U.S. arsenal: the Tomahawk cruise missile.
The Tomahawk is a very accurate missile, and it has a very big blast.
Launched from ships or submarines, it's seen as the ideal weapon to deliver a large payload quickly to a pinpointed location.
The Tomahawk is a 1,000-pound warhead, and its range is about 1,000 miles. So it's a pretty substantial range. It gives you a lot of standoff capability. You don't need to be right on top of your target to hit it. You can pretty far away.
At a cost of $750,000 each, the Tomahawk cruise missile is one of the most advanced and destructive weapons in the U.S. Armory. It's 16 feet long and is powered by a jet engine that can propel it to speeds of up to 550 miles per hour. The nose cone contains an advanced guidance system that has an accuracy of within 180 feet and can hit targets up to 1,000 miles away. With the weapon and the plan almost finalized, the CIA receives what appears to be some amazing intelligence.
The CIA collected a piece of actionable intelligence that said Osama bin Laden is going to be at location Y in 72 hours.
The location is an al-Qaeda training camp in Khost in eastern Afghanistan.
All we had to go on was that he would be in that complex of camps. I thought it was absolutely necessary to try to kill him.
It's remarkable in the intelligence business when you get something like that. That's a gem that comes once a decade.
With such sensitive intelligence in their possession, terror experts at the White House go into lockdown.
The White House set up a very small, very secret cell of those who were brought in for the planning purposes. I was one of those. We literally stayed overnight in the White House complex so that no one would have a chance to inadvertently leak some information.
And it isn't just a domestic leak the Clinton administration is worried about. For the missiles to hit their targets, they have to fly through Pakistani airspace. With tensions high between India and Pakistan, concerns are that the attack will be misinterpreted.
We didn't want to inadvertently start a nuclear war between India and Pakistan.
I raised this about Pakistanis suddenly detecting missiles over their airspace.
So somehow we had to tell the Pakistanis that this was not an attack on them.
Some members of Pakistan's intelligence service are known to be sympathetic to bin Laden. One issue is, how can the White House inform Pakistan without the information being leaked? So a U.S. general is sent to alert them at the last possible moment.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said, "Can I come over and have lunch?" literally, in Islamabad. And that's what he did.
In the early hours of the morning of August 20th, President Clinton, along with Bruce Riedel and his principal advisors, agree on the targets.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute.
Later that day, the first Tomahawk cruise missile is fired from a U.S. Navy vessel in the Arabian Sea.
Today, I ordered our armed forces to strike at terrorist-related facilities in Afghanistan and Sudan.
As the missiles were roaring in over the Arabian Sea towards their targets, he told the Pakistanis, "You're going to see on radar any minute now some missiles coming in. They're not intended for you."
The cruise missile travels 100 miles over water to the coast of Pakistan. 400 miles later, it crosses the border of Afghanistan and then flies northeast toward Khost.
The Tomahawk uses a GPS guidance system. Basically, it's like the GPS that you have in your car. It situates you within the space, and it constantly adjusts to make sure the Tomahawk is still on target.
As the Tomahawk makes its way toward its target, its sophisticated guidance system is constantly updating its position.
Tomahawk also has a backup system, and there's a camera on the Tomahawk that takes pictures and matches those pictures up with a database inside the missile. And if those pictures don't match up, the Tomahawk will course correct and get back on the right trajectory.
2 hours after being launched, the Tomahawk has the Al-Qaeda training camp in its sights and zeroes in for impact. Over the next hour, another 74 missiles rain down on Al-Qaeda targets in wave after wave of devastating explosions. But as the dust settles and the scale of the devastation becomes apparent, the news from ground sources is not good. 21 suspected Al-Qaeda members are killed, but Osama bin Laden is not one of them.
We learned later that it was likely bin Laden may have been there, but he had broken camp with his followers hours before the cruise missile struck.
It certainly was a disappointment. We found out he wasn't there and we didn't get him.
We knew the chances were significant that bin Laden wouldn't be there, but the chance of getting him was well worth the risk.
The reasons for the failure are analyzed. There is suspicion that despite taking precautions, the Pakistanis alerted him minutes before impact.
There was a little bit of time there to warn the people at the camps.
It's an allegation that has never been proven, and one that is still hotly debated.
The notification was at the very last minute, where it would have been impossible for them to provide any notification.
I think it's perfectly possible.
There's no evidence that I know of that the Pakistanis alerted Osama bin Laden to the attack.
Despite not getting their target, the plan to use cruise missiles to kill bin Laden is still seen as a viable option. In February 1999, the CIA receives its most promising report on his whereabouts since the August strikes.
We receive information that Osama is visiting a hunting camp in the desert southwest of Kandahar.
The CIA sends its Afghan agents equipped with sighting equipment, satellite beacons, and secure communications gear. They soon locate the hunting camp.
They said, "We're here. We're looking down at this camp. This is what we see. We see an airplane. We see tents. We follow bin Laden here. We see his tent. It's over there on the right. And we think he's going to be here for a while."
The agents are instructed to stay in place and monitor the camp. It appears that bin Laden is staying nearby and visiting on a regular basis.
What made the hunting camp so distinctive was that he seemed to sit still. He was in the same place for days at a time.